Thank you for choosing the Eyegaze Connect. In this video, we will go over navigating iOS and using the various buttons that control iPhones and iPads with the Eyegaze Connect. Because some of these controls may be unfamiliar to you, approach the new controls as a way to accomplish the same tasks that you already do on your iPhone or iPad. Start with the basics like mouse movements, navigation, and keyboard keys. Practice navigating your home screen and using basic iPhone or iPad apps like Mail, Messages, and Notes before moving on to apps such as Facebook or browsing the web. In this video, we will be demonstrating with an iPhone 14 Pro Max running iOS 26. Please note, your hotkeys may vary if you're using a different device or version of iOS. Keep in mind that for any hotkey that has a corresponding keyboard shortcut, you can enter that shortcut into the keyboard to accomplish the same action as selecting the hotkey. For example, if I click on the Home button, it will exit the browser I am currently on and take me to my iPhone home screen. But if you know the keyboard shortcut for the Home button, which is Command H, you can accomplish the same thing. This applies to all hotkeys on every page. For example, if you have an iPad that is running an older version of iOS, and you know there's a keyboard shortcut for what you want to accomplish, you can simply use the keyboard and type in the shortcut to get the same result as clicking on the hotkey. For any of the hotkeys I go over in this video, you will need full keyboard access to be activated on the device you're controlling. Please reference our Help Desk article for how to enable full keyboard access on your device. Let's go over the iOS control navigation page. On the iOS control navigation page, and with my iPhone currently on its home screen, a blue square is currently highlighting the camera app. When I click on any of the directional arrow keys, the blue square moves in the direction of the key I've selected. When I want to open an app, I can click the Activate key. Now let's go back to the home screen, and I'll do the same thing I just did using the keyboard. Just like the directional arrow keys on the iOS control navigation page, you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move the blue square around. As long as you have not activated a typing area, the spacebar acts as the activation key. Here, I have the blue square currently highlighting the Games app, and I want to open it. When I click on the spacebar, the app opens. This is a convenient way to navigate your device while typing without switching back and forth between the iOS control navigation page and keyboard. When you are navigating on an iOS device, you may lose sight of the focus. If you look at my iPhone screen, you'll notice that there is currently no blue square highlighting any of the apps. But once I start clicking on any of the directional arrow keys, the blue square comes back. After a period of inactivity, the blue square will disappear again. Another example is, let's say I want to activate the search button you see at the bottom of the iPhone screen right above the dock. If I click on the downward directional arrow key, the blue square is now highlighting the phone app. If I click on the upward directional arrow key, the blue square goes back to the Maps app, completely skipping over the search button. There are two ways you can address this. The first way is by using the Select Forward and Select Backward buttons, which you will find on the right side of the iOS control navigation page. While the directional arrow keys let you select elements that are next to each other, the Select Forward and Select Backward buttons change the category of elements you are focusing on. Therefore, if the blue highlight is currently around an app on my home screen and I click Select Forward, the blue highlight moves to the next category, skipping over the next two apps that were in line and goes to the search bar. When I click Select Forward again, the blue highlight now goes down to the apps on the dock. The second way to address the blue highlight skipping over features is through mouse activation. This can especially be useful for navigating widgets, which may have elements that are too small to focus on with the iOS control navigation buttons. The next button on this page is App Switcher. When selected, all your currently open apps will appear, and you'll be able to navigate through them with the left and right directional arrow keys. You can also find the App Switcher button on the iOS Control main menu page. The Go Back button is similar to swiping right on the left edge of the screen. For example, if I go to my iPhone Settings app and select Wi-Fi, clicking on the Go Back button will take me back to the previous page. This is the same as hitting the back arrow button in the top left corner of the screen. Page up and page down are context sensitive and are useful in specific scenarios. For example, if I'm in my iPhone Settings app, clicking on the page up and page down buttons will do nothing. But if I go into my Safari browser, page up and page down now work. For a scenario like the iPhone Settings app where page up and page down are not supported, you can scroll by using the directional arrow keys to navigate through the elements, which will automatically scroll through the page as a result. Now let's go over how to navigate the iPhone home screen using the buttons on the iOS Control navigation page. In the mouse controls video, we went over how to swipe through pages on your home screen. Here's an alternative way to do this with the buttons you see here. If I put the focus on the iPhone Settings app and click on the right directional arrow key, you will notice that it does not switch to the next page on the home screen. But if I go down to the search button first and then use the directional arrow keys, I am now able to switch pages. If I am on the search button and click Activate, I can start typing to look for specific apps. For example, if I want to open the Messages app, I can type Messages and use the directional arrow keys to move to the app and click Activate to open it. When you are on the main keyboard page and select the iOS menu button, you'll be taken to the iOS Control main menu page. This page is color-coded. The blue buttons on the left and right side of the screen will take you to a separate page. The gray buttons in the center are direct action buttons, so they will have an effect on the device you are controlling as soon as you select them. For example, selecting the Control Center button will bring up the iPhone's Control Center. To get out of the Control Center, you can either click on the Control Center button again or click on the Home button. Not only does the Home button take you back to your home screen, it will also take you back to the application open in the background. Another example of this is when you select the Notifications button, the iPhone's Notification Center will appear. To exit out of the Notification Center, either select the Notifications button or Home button to be taken back to the app currently running in the background. Same with App Switcher. Select the App Switcher button again or the Home button to get out of it. The Available Actions button is context sensitive and depends on what app you currently have open. For example, when you select the Available Actions button while the focus is on the Notes app, a menu will appear that will give you a list of available actions. In this case, it's Add Link, Drag, and Cancel. Now, when you go to the home screen and select the Available Actions button, a new list of available actions will appear. And in this case, it's Edit Mode, Today, App Library, and Cancel. This is because the Notes app and home screen have different available actions. When you move the focus to the Search button and select the Available Actions button, a pop-up at the top of the screen will appear, letting you know that the Search button does not have any available actions. Again, the Available Actions button is context sensitive and is there for when you have something selected that has available actions. The context menu is similar to a right-click menu or a tap and hold. For example, when you have the blue highlight around the iPhone Settings app and select the Context menu button, a menu will appear with the available actions for the specific app. When you move the focus to the Search button and select the Context menu button, nothing will happen because the Context menu does not apply to the Search button. There are a couple of ways to use Siri. If you're using a speech synthesizer, select the Siri button to activate Siri, then go to the keyboard, type something, and then use the speak button to communicate with it. Another way to communicate with Siri is by activating Type to Siri, which you will find instructions for in our Help Desk article. The Find button is a little different than the Search button on your iOS device because it is specifically for finding text. For this reason, unlike Search, you cannot type in an app name and open it through the Find feature. When you select the Find button, a search bar will appear in the center of the screen. When you have a web page or note open, for example, and are looking for a specific word, you can type the word into the search bar to find it. To get out of Find, select the Find button again. Selecting the Home button in this case will not produce any action. Selecting the Toggle Help menu button will show you the same menu regardless of what screen you are on. The Help menu will display the basic keyboard shortcuts that are available to you. The shortcuts may be different based on what version of iOS your device is currently running or what device model you have. Similar to the Find button, select the Toggle Help menu button again to exit. Selecting the Home button in this case will not produce any action. On the iOS System Controls page, there are three main functions available: Restart, Lock Screen, and Analytics. Analytics records logs used by Apple. The Lock Screen button will lock your device. If your device has a password, you can click on the Home button and then on Keypad where you will be able to enter your password to unlock your device. The Restart button will require a confirmation on both your Eyegaze Edge and device. When you click on the Restart button, the following confirmation message will appear on your Eyegaze Edge and a corresponding one on your device. To restart your device, click the Continue button on your Eyegaze Edge, then use either the mouse controls or iOS control navigation buttons to confirm the message that will appear on your device. Once you've restarted your device, you will need to re-enter your password, which you can do by clicking on the Keypad button. Looking for an easy way to read emails or send a text message? The App menu page includes a list of commonly used apps we've pre-configured with helpful keyboard shortcuts to make using them simple and hassle-free. Keep in mind that for any of the buttons we provided, you may get different results depending on what device model you have or version of iOS you are running. If any of the provided shortcuts are different, you can manually enter the shortcuts using the keyboard. Let's begin with email. On the iOS Mail Inbox Controls page, the navigation buttons are on the right and the useful inbox filtering options are on the left. To search the mail inbox, select the Search Mailbox button. A search bar will appear, and you can use the keyboard to type what you are searching for. Your search is filtered based on the top hits and suggestions. To go back to the inbox, select the Go Back button. The Filter by Unread button is a toggle button. Selecting it once will display all unread emails, and selecting it again will take you back to your regular inbox with both read and unread emails. Use the directional arrow keys to navigate through your inbox. A blue highlight will indicate which email you are currently focused on. Select Activate to open the highlighted email. Once an email has been opened, the inbox filtering buttons on the left no longer produce any action. Selecting the Email Compose Controls button will take you to the iOS Mail Compose Controls page, which will give you access to buttons that can be used for any email that is either being viewed or written. On this page, there are options for deleting or archiving an email and marking an email as junk or unread. When the Mark Unread button is selected, a blue dot will appear in the top left corner, indicating that the email has been marked unread. You can toggle this button on and off. To delete an email, select either the Archive Email or Delete Email button, or mark it as junk with the Mark Junk button. To reply to an email, select either the Reply or Reply All button. Let's say you want to reply to this email. Select the reply button, and because the text entry field is already activated, go to the keyboard and start writing an email. The Attach Files button will open the file browser. This is different than inserting a photo or video to an email. This will let you browse files saved on your device, such as a PDF or Word document, which you want to send. To attach a photo or video to an email, use the mouse controls. First, use the directional arrow keys to move the cursor to an empty spot on the page. Next, select Drag, which is the same as click and hold, to activate the text entry field, then immediately select Drag again to deactivate it and bring up the Options menu. Use the directional arrow keys again to move the cursor over the arrow button to expose the rest of the menu options. Now that the menu has been expanded, the third option from the bottom, Insert Photo or Video, is visible. Move the cursor down to that option and select it. Now the photo album is open at the bottom, and a photo or video can be selected to insert into the email. Now that the photo is attached, use the mouse controls again to drag the photo album down. Place the cursor on the gray tab at the top, select Drag, use the downward directional arrow key to drag the album down to the bottom of the screen, and then select Drag again to release it. The Show BCC Field button is for adding another recipient of an email to the BCC field. The Paste button is for pasting any copied text. When an email is ready to be sent, select the Send Email button, which will send the email and take you back to the iOS Mail Inbox Controls page. Next up, let's take a look at iOS Notes and Google Docs. Between these two pages of the App Control menu page, you may notice a lot of overlap between the controls. Although the actions are the same, the hotkeys are not interchangeable, so you cannot use the Notes buttons in Google Docs and vice versa. Currently, I am showing the hotkeys applicable for iOS 26. You may have a different version of the apps or iOS with different keyboard shortcuts. In that case, you can manually enter the shortcuts using the keyboard as an alternative to using the provided buttons. In the Notes app, you can use the directional arrow keys to select which note you want to open, and then select Activate to open it. Once in the note, you'll notice when using the directional arrow keys, the focus hovers over the text area, but it also goes back to the controls on the top and bottom of the screen. Therefore, before using the keys on the left side of the iOS Notes controls page, the text area will need to be activated. Use the directional arrow keys to highlight the text area and select the Activate button. Once activated, you'll notice the flashing insertion point. Once the insertion point appears, you can now use the directional arrow keys to move it letter by letter. The Select Forward and Backwards buttons are not applicable when the text area is active. To deactivate the text area, hit Escape. You'll notice the controls on the bottom of the screen change, which indicates the text area is no longer active. When the text area is active, the buttons on the left side of the page give access to formatting and typing tools. Use the Find and Note button to search for a word or phrase inside the note. You can also use the Find and Replace button. Hit Escape to get out. Keep in mind that some of the buttons will only apply to the words that are highlighted, and others will apply to the entire chunk of text that the insertion point is in. For example, if you select the Checklist button, the entire paragraph becomes a checklist. Same with bulleted lists. The Title Format button also applies to the entire chunk of text regardless of where in the chunk of text the insertion point is located. Bold, underline, and italic are all toggle buttons. For example, when the bold button is selected, it toggles bold on, so words that are typed after are in bold. You can also select an existing word you want to bold using the mouse. double-click on the word you want to bold, and toggle bold on or off. Similarly, you can use the underline and italic buttons. Please note, these three buttons apply only to words that are highlighted. For more advanced methods of word or phrase selection, check out our mouse control video. The indent button can be toggled on or off to indent a paragraph. Selecting scroll up and scroll down in this context scrolls up or down an entire page. It acts as a page up or page down button, which is different from the scroll buttons on the mouse page. If I use the step scroll buttons instead, the page scrolls in smaller increments. To get out of the text area, select the Escape button. You can also select the Go Back button to go back to your list of notes. Now let's go over the Google Docs controls. To activate the text area, use the directional arrow keys to navigate to the Edit button in the bottom right corner of the screen, identified by a pencil icon. Once your cursor is on the button, select Activate. When the text area is active, a blinking text insertion point will appear within the document. To confirm that the text area is active, begin typing on the keyboard to see if any text will appear. Use the directional arrow keys to move the insertion point to the desired location within the document. On the left side of the Google Docs controls page, you will notice that some of the hotkeys are similar to those used in other apps. However, keep in mind that these hotkeys are specifically designed to be used within Google Docs. The text alignment button can be used to align a chunk of text you've got active with your insertion point. You can also use the undo and redo buttons as needed. Use the Insert Link button to insert hyperlinks into your document. Hit Escape to get out of this menu. Selecting Scroll Up and Scroll Down in this context scrolls up or down an entire page. Another way to scroll through the document is to place the cursor near the top or bottom of the document and click to place your insertion point. Then, use the up or down arrow key to move the insertion point. As the insertion point moves, the document will scroll one line at a time in the corresponding direction. In Google Docs, as well as many other apps, the menu at the top of the screen may appear or disappear depending on the direction of your most recent swipe. Therefore, if you do not see the menu, simply swipe on the screen to bring it back into view. For example, in Google Docs, swiping down reveals the menu at the top of the screen, while swiping up hides it. So if we continue to swipe down, we will continue to see the menu. Select the checkmark button to exit edit mode and finish editing the document. Let's go over the iPhone and iPad Messages app. The simplest way to access text messaging is via the built-in Eyeworld text app. This works by syncing your iPhone or iPad via Bluetooth directly to the Eyegaze Edge. The Eyeworld text app supports basic one-on-one messaging and not group chats or sharing of photos and other attachments. To use group chats and share photos and other attachments, you can use our built-in WhatsApp application. With the Eyegaze Connect, you can now use your iOS messaging app on your iPhone and iPad. Let's go into the iOS menu, App menu, and Messages. I'm going to use the directional arrow keys to navigate to the Messages app on my phone and select Activate to open it. Once in the Messages app, use the directional arrow keys to navigate to the message you wish to access. The arrow keys can also be used to scroll when you're at the bottom or top of the messages list. For alternative ways to scroll, please check out our mouse control video. We're going to select this top messages thread and use the down arrow key to get to the typing area. Once we get to the typing area, we're going to activate it. Please note, once the typing area is activated, the arrow keys will no longer work for navigating the app. Once in the typing area, you can use the keyboard to type your message. You can also use the keys on the left side to add a line break or undo the message. Once you've completed typing your message, use the Send Message button to send your message. Then, use the Exit Typing Mode button on the left side. And there we go. Notice, once you've exited typing mode, the arrow keys can now be used to navigate the app again. Alternatively, you can select the Escape button or the Go Back button to return without selecting other buttons on this page. To start a new message, select the New Message button. Use the keyboard to type in a contact you want to send your message to. To get out of the new message, select the Escape button. To send a photo or video, use the mouse controls to navigate the home screen and open the Photos app. Select the photo or video you would like to share, then use the mouse controls to navigate to the Share button and select it. From there, choose how you would like to send the photo or video, such as through email, a text message, or another available sharing option.